should have given you permission.
Recording on. Wonderful.
Okay, perfect. And is
Now we are safe. Two records.
Purva
One of
will be
the
here,
two.
right? Purva will be here, right? So I want to
Any
make
minute. And the 3 recordings, one of it is bound to be okay.
Yeah, so we've been having some current problems at home.
Actually, we are doing
make
so multiple
Purva-
recordings, no?
Yeah, no, also for the Zoom call to continue, I'll make Purva host when she gets here
Yeah, that will be safer then.
to be safe.
Sundari, what do you feel about today's meeting?
I didn't hear that. I couldn't join the meeting before. What was what did you say, Suresh?
No. What do you feel about the today's coming meeting?
I'm very excited. I'm waiting
excited.
because
No
I
doubt
heard
about it.
Latika talked a little bit on our trip. Acha,
Mhm.
Mala Prema, I had gone for this Hoysala heritage tour with V. Sriram.
What was that?
Oh, wow.
Super, absolutely fantastic.
Must have been Hoysala, that too. Oh my God.
Oh, Prema, you're looking so trim and nice.
Arey Baba.
Ready for the
Yes, big day.
I'm looking trim and nice. I combed my
Yes,
hair.
a big day, no?
Yeah, looking all ready.
Hi, Alagu.
Hello.
Very
Hi.
nice. Hey, Akshay, hi.
Hi.
And touch wood, you're looking well, Prema.
Thank
Right?
you. Yes, I think I'm getting better, honestly.
No,
No, you're
Ask
glowing
them to
today,
start talking,
Prema.
they will look nice.
Yes. Sundari, I haven't been able to read your bit yet, but I will about your
Yeah,
trip.
no problem. You know, you're always interested, so I thought
I
I'd
love
talk
all
to you
these
about it.
It was lovely. I mean, I heard someone else who also went. Letika went.
Yes,
That's good.
we were so happy to see each other. It was so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
When are we going to meet physically? Why don't we meet before another wave sets in next week? I mean, another 10 days, another wave is going
Yeah,
to be.
I'm ready. It's only Suresh who is not able to come. I'm just waiting. That's why I didn't do anything, because I was away this time to coordinate. We need to. I don't know if Suresh will be allowed. I'm ready to meet.
You know, I don't know whether I would be allowed, in the sense there's only my
Well,
elder
isn't it
sister
you?
to tell me. There's nobody else to tell me what to do. So she's there, sitting there, you know, and saying, no, 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 you can't do this, you can't do that. So that's the question. She's older than me, so she can sort of order me around a little bit.
Only thing, you know, if we wait for the wave, and then there might be another Omicron. There'll be another virus.
Yeah, I think we would have all aged by 2 years. Can you believe it? At my age, 2 years is a long time to age, you know.
Yeah,
Become ancient.
don't worry, you're not.
I'm ready. I'm ready to host. Even Sharon says her gallery is there. So
Rita was also saying the same thing.
I would love to have you all home also, so I can easily host you.
Maybe 2022 will be all that, one after the other.
Yes, okay. Let's hope. Yeah.
Let's hope.
If we could have it
still
hybrid, I
don't know when I
suppose
can
those
be
of us who can't will
Come
do
on,
it from.
through.
yeah,
Hybrid,
that's
yeah.
what we need to do, both. I didn't want Suresh to miss.
I went to Apparao Gallery this
Looking at
morning.
trying it.
We can do a hybrid event in January from there
So it's possible at Apparao.
in Apparao Gallery, Sharon's place. And it seemed like entirely possible. She has a smart TV. She has a huge room.
Wow.
So I'm going to go
Oh.
there to the 10th of January to try to do a dry run.
Yeah, we need to practice first.
I might ask a few of you to participate in the
Yeah,
dry.
yeah. I can come that day, Mala. I can come on the 10th, hopefully.
Hope I
Which
can
is the
start
big
getting out
hall
by that
you're
time.
talking about, Mala? Which is the big hall that you're talking about? A big
Went
hall.
to the gallery recently. She has the entry hall, which is a small hall. Then the next one is the medium hall, and the last one is the big hall.
Okay, yeah.
So the big hall
Oh, wow.
can actually accommodate, with social distancing and all that. I think it can easily accommodate 20 people.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
depending on
superb.
how many people will actually be there physically, we can choose the size of hall. And because she has a smart TV, it's going to be, the hookup will be much easier, simpler. So we can host Zoom on the smart TV, and I'll have my laptop, and maybe Purva or somebody else will have their laptop, so that the people that are in the room are also heard on Zoom.
Yeah, that is the most important part, no?
See how it works.
That's a good idea.
Acha, Suresh, Purva has come. So
Yeah.
maybe you can ask, get her also as the host. Yeah, there she is.
Hello.
Hello, Purva. Hello.
Hi, Purva. My electricity is kind of flaky today. So may I make you host now?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. So you'll have to admit the others that come in.
Sure.
Okay, one sec. So you must be host now. Did you get it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
What I'm going to do is,
Hi, Sureka.
Hello.
Hello all.
hello.
Oh, hi, Chandra. You're back from wherever you went to the
Hello.
antipodes
Yeah,
and up again and all that.
We were in the US, West Coast, so I couldn't at all. Timing was very difficult.
But you were in Australia or somewhere earlier?
No,
New
no, we
Zealand?
went to the US,
Okay.
West
Oh.
Coast, California. So it was very difficult we were in midnight, to
Yeah.
4 o'clock. So
I know.
I missed the last, really missed it, But listen to
Recording is
the,
there, no problem.
yes, listen to the
Yes, there's a
recorded version.
recording.
Of course, it's not the same thing. We can understand.
Yeah. I had asked some questions also to the participants, that is the authors, but I didn't get any answer. So
We ask
maybe
them
next,
again. We'll get the answers.
yeah. It was very nice anyhow.
The new member is trying to join. Wonderful.
Yeah, I saw a few names.
Justice M. Jayachandran.
Yeah, I saw the name.
Acha, Suresh,
Yeah.
both Lakshmi and Rameshan are not coming today. I'm not attending.
Yeah, they sent messages earlier.
Justice has entered.
Hello. Yes, very good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon. Justice.
Good
There
afternoon.
is
Good
one
afternoon.
member
Welcome.
one. We let him.
Yeah, nice to see you all.
Yes. We can't see you though.
Hello?
You have to turn your video on.
Lama, sorry, இப்ப பேச முடியாதும்மா. Call tomorrow. Yeah.
Purva, you let the new member in?
Yeah, I
Right.
disable the waiting room, so members will be able to join automatically.
Oh. That means
That's
the
good.
problem is on his computer side. Okay.
That's good.
Oh, Anand.
Hello.
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 Anand. Okay.
Where are our speakers? They haven't come yet.
We have a couple of them.
Sureka has come.
This is
Yes,
this.
just joining.
Okay.
Hello.
Good.
Hi.
Hi, Meera.
Meera.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, there's
Anu. There's
Anu. Hi.
Anu.
Oh, everybody's here.
How are you?
Hi, fine. Thanks, Anu.
Hey, Sureka.
Where's Sureka?
Hi, folks.
Hi,
Anu
Sureka.
is also there. Hi.
Hi.
I can't hear Sureka. I didn't see her all this time.
Yes, now,
Hi,
yes.
Sureka.
Hi, Sureka.
Hi.
You.
We're all waiting to see the new member Jay, and he's not opening up.
Only Latika hasn't joined.
She will. A woman is always on time. She'll be on time for her own. She'll be on time for her own talk, surely. That I'm sure of.
What's happening? What is happening?
Well, Purva, shall we wait a few more minutes?
Yeah, let's give people a few more minutes. We'll start at 6:05.
Why doesn't Suresh start his, he needed to say things?
So yeah, we
But
can do
then-
that.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, the announcements
I
or
can get you.
whichever.
Suresh, come on.
Yeah. See, from the thing is, our next book, for example, for January is taken care of. How the meeting will happen will be decided shortly. Where, what, how much online, how much actual physical, all that is still a little vague. Let's see what happens. But we have to start electing our book for February. I'm going to
I
get the
thought-
process running immediately after today's meeting, because that will give us enough time to buy the book and read. Plus,
Suresh?
this slow read, taking a lot of time to read also.
Suresh, I
Ah.
thought the Promised Land was being done in February. They're giving 1 more month for Promised Land.
So how
And you were
many
going to-
months? It's November and December, we haven't had it. So we'll have to have it in Jan.
Yeah, yeah. I think it
Already
was
2
scheduled.
months we have postponed, no? Selected in October for November.
Yeah.
Now 2 months we postponed it, we pushed it.
Okay.
I think we still have 1 month. I'm sure we can catch up. I'm only in the 65th page or something, but I know
I call it
I
a
will catch
receipt.
up.
I call it a receding mirage. The nearer you get to it, the further it goes away.
Hello, Sri.
Hello.
Yeah, I've done one part of it. I've got 2 more parts. So I think I'll finish. Okay.
No, I'm a bit of a
You know,
broken
one
record about this.
member
I
gave me a
love the
very
audio
interesting method of
version.
reading this particular book. My friend Tukaram in US has got both a physical copy and an audio book. He says during the time he's running around, driving anywhere, he listens to the audio book. Night after he comes home, he switches on, takes his physical book. He says he's able to read better. He's able to select what he wants and all that.
Just a minute, Suresh, somebody's
Waiting for him to finish to get a final report.
There's a terrible
somewhere I'm
racket
getting
going on.
lots of
There's a lot
rattling
of
noise.
noise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody but Mr. Suresh, could you all please put yourselves on mute? That way we'll only hear
Yes.
him.
Yeah, when we talk,
building.
Whoever is not talking should be on mute.
Yeah.
Maybe I should ring up Jay to tell him he's not on. Video is not on.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Surprising.
You can call him and tell him.
I hope I have his number.
We can also message him on this.
Yeah.
Shall I message him?
Hmm.
Can you see him, Purva? I don't see.
No. Hi, Latika.
Yeah, Latika's here. Hi, Latika.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Looking forward to all of you speakers.
Yes, looking forward to listening to all of you, really.
Yeah.
Hi, we see Miss Sandhya. Hi, Sandhya.
He's
Hello,
joining shortly.
Sandhya.
Good to see everyone here.
Hello.
Sandhya, hello. This is Suresh.
Hello, Suresh.
I just talked to Jay and this is he's joining.
Oh, yes.
They're all waiting. You can only see his nameplate, no?
Okay.
Hi, Sandhya.
Sandhya. Hi, there. Hello, Sandhya. So, hello.
Hello, Sri Kumar.
Hello.
Hello, Alagu.
So,
I'm really looking forward to meeting
Srikumar,
all of you in person sometime.
you're
Hopefully.
on mute. Srikumar, you're on mute.
But all of us were supposed to be on
It's
mute.
open. We can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear him. I can
So
also
should
see.
I say hi and then mute myself
Yeah,
again?
there he is. Hello.
Hi, Latika. We're all waiting.
I think we should start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anuradha is, yeah. Just a second.
Flash screen.
So yeah, we have our first author here. Yeah, can you see?
Yes, we can see her.
Yeah.
Shall I start?
Oh,
Yes.
Super.
Yes.
The screen can be removed. Pooja.
Yeah.
Good evening to all of you. I cannot tell you how nerve-wracking it is to speak about 4 communities in about 18 minutes, giving a little bit of time for question and answers. So what I've decided is, in one sentence, I'll tell you why they came to Chennai, and then I'll just give you some anecdotes which are interesting about the different communities, and they'll leave you with some idea of what the culture, values the communities subscribe to. The Punjabis, there were only 4 Punjabi families in Chennai before partition. The exodus into Chennai happened only because of partition. And many of them came here, they just got onto a train and they landed over here without knowing why they were here or where they were going. So that's about the Punjabis. The Sindhis came here, one, because of commerce, because I will expand on that later. They came on something called musafiris, and also because they landed in Mumbai after partition and made their way to Madras later. The Parsis came here to give a gift to the British general. They liked the place, and 6 of them bought land in Royapuram or were gifted land in Royapuram and stayed back. And from there, the community grew. The Bengalis came here largely for the movie industry and because of the railways. They worked in the railways. They came here for that reason. So this is about how the 4 communities came into Madras. The Punjabis, when they came here during partition, I think that most of the people who reside in this city will not be able to imagine, fathom what they were going through as a result of partition. So there are stories about partition in the book. I'm going to share one with you just to give you an understanding of what happened to them. There is a lady over here called Sarla Nangia. She was about 14, 15 years old, and she had a sister slightly older than her. They used to live in Quetta, Baluchistan. One evening, their father came to know that their house is going to be attacked by miscreants. Hastily, he put his 2 daughters in a train, which they thought would go to India. They did not know where. And the parents spent the whole night behind a bench. Now, her father had fixed with the railways that at different stations, they would get information about the 2 daughters. They were in the compartment, they were fine, the train has left, it is going to go in this direction, all that. Suddenly, the girls found that the train stopped nowhere. There was nothing around, there was no station, nothing. In wilderness, it has stopped. So some 6th sense made them realize that this train is not headed to India. They quickly got out of the train, boarded another train, and arranged all their luggage in under the seat and hid behind the luggage. That train actually never reached India. It was just massacred, felled along the way. It never came to India. So their 6th sense was right. One man was watching them. He was dressed as a Pathan. He offered to bring them rotis. Imagine, in 1947,
They got 2 rotis for 10 rupees each. That's a huge sum. Then when he gave them the rotis, they felt really comfortable with him. He took out his chain and he showed them all Hindu symbols and informed them that I am also running away and I have disguised myself. That's why I'm wearing these clothes, you know. So this train took off. They were so scared, they never got out of the train for 2 days. They were only subsisting on the, you know, tap water in the train. You can imagine how horrific that would have been. Somehow they landed up in Delhi. Surprisingly, they did not even know the number of their brother's house, who they contacted, where they went, what they did. But by evening, they located their brother's house. The whole family had organized a 13th day ceremony for the 2 girls. They had presumed they were dead, and this termi was going on when these girls landed over there. Now, Sarla Nangia's parents, you know, keeping in view how conservative those times were, they decided that they must get their daughters married as soon as possible because nobody knew where they were for a few days, you see. And Sarla Nangia's aunt, mother's sister, was a doctor. She got an emergency call that a lady had met with a very serious accident and she had to report for duty. When she went to see this patient, the lady looked at her and she said, I don't have long to live. I only have one son. He will have nobody in this world. Please, can you suggest a match for him? Look at look at the kind of trust people used to have in those days. Her aunt fixed her marriage without informing her parents. She said, I have a niece. I think she's very suitable for your son. That lady got mishri for 25 annas. She put the mishri in her hand and confirmed that her son was betrothed to her niece, and she died within an hour. And that is how she was married to her husband, and after 2 years, they landed up in Madras. This is about partition. And there are hundreds of horrific stories which the city's residents will tell you, which they were witness to if they are in their early 80s. They remember those incidents very, very vividly. And they will tell you that we landed here, we were in such a state of shock, we didn't even know at times. So many of us did not even know where we have come. We just sat in whichever train was going to India and came. So the refugees were housed in a place called Kushaldas Gardens. I think it is in one corner of Kilpaw. They used to get 5 rupees a month for one family. They would get a room in which several families would be there. They had to cook, they had to live, they had to sleep in that room only. And they had to take their clothes very far away to wash them. And as it is, they were in a state of depression. And on top of that, the living conditions were really sad, really, really sad. The community drew upon its inner strength and they did whatever they could find. They would put up a vegetable stall. They did not go and work as domestic help. That is all they did not do. But they did any small job from where the investment was low and they could subsist for a couple of days. They did those jobs, see. So I had met this lady, Visharda Hoon. She was the principal of Anna Adarsh. And she told me, I have seen this community thrive. They used to come on bicycles to drop their kids to school. Then they came on scooters and then cars. And then they moved out of the, middle class localities they were living in and bought much better houses in whichever part of the city suited them. Today, they are very well established and they are prosperous. And the fact that they are hardworking is very well acknowledged. Now, the community is not without its flaws either. They are considered to be very loud. They are considered to be very blingy. And they are considered to have very lavish, parties. So it doesn't go well with a lot of other communities. But in their defense, the Punjabi community says, This is the way we are. We don't know any other way of being. We are very hospitable by nature. Anybody comes to our house, we don't know how to do anything other than extend our best foot forward in looking after them. So we find it very hurtful that these kind of things are said about us when this is a part of our DNA. We don't know any other way of being. Their hospitality is very well known and very well appreciated also, even amongst the community itself. So you ring up a Punjabi and say that I would like to come to your house. And they'll say, in Punjabi, they'll say, "Tusi kade bhi aa jao, toda apna ghar hai. Please come anytime. This is your own house. Jo dal roti bani hai, kha lange milke. Whatever dal or roti is made in the house, we will eat it together. But when the person will go to their house, what will come on the table is not just dal roti. And mind you, this is an impromptu visit you paid to their house. Suddenly, like magic, there will be a very, very nice, decent spread on the table because they enjoy people's company. They enjoy having people over and they will look after them very well. Then their marriages are also very, very famous, that they conduct weddings in a very lavish manner, which again may go down well with people, may not go down well with people, but this is the way they conduct marriages. They don't know any other way of doing it. Another thing about them is they love power. So, you see, the Punjabi community in Chennai is a little subdued. They may not show it in very overt ways. But in the north, you see, if they have an altercation with somebody on the road, invariably they will get out of the car and tell the person, "Tu janta nahi main kaun hu, meri pahunch upar tak hai. You don't know who I am. My reach is, I have friends in very high places." This is a trademark statement which they will make when they are in a dire situation. And many of them have a lot of difficulty in Chennai, that if somebody doesn't like something, but they don't come and tell them, they just stop talking to them. They are very famous that if they have a problem with somebody, no, they'll call the person up. And the problems will be very, very small. So they'll say, "Penji, this means sister. Tusi Sunday ਨੂੰ ਇਤਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਖਾਣਾ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਲਾਇਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੁਲਾਇਆ you had a lunch in your house on Sunday you invited everybody but you did not invite me ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਏ ਨਹੀਂ people called me and asked me you had such good friends with her she didn't invite you you never came and it was very, very upsetting for me. So then she'll say, "No, I thought you don't have a car. Then who will have dropped you? How would you have come? So I thought I'll call you in the daytime." So that it'll go back and forth, back and forth. Then finally one of them will say, "Okay, hun sab kuch saaf ho gaya na mitti pav." The mitti pav means let's forget about it. Everything has been cleared, no? What are you doing tomorrow? Come and have dinner with us. So this is a very pet trait of theirs, that the relationship means so much to them that they will go back, they will make that phone call. If they are not so close to the person, they will enlist the help of a third party, but they will talk it out that this is what has upset me, this is what has hurt me, and they will do some drama and it will get sorted out. So this is what many of them missed in the city. What was our mistake? What did we do? Why so and so is not talking to us? They are never able to understand. It never comes to light. And now I'll come to the Sindhis. Sindhis, I think, got a very, very raw deal in partition. They do business in very large families. They live in very large families. And they were, I think, in terms of education, the least educated community which got dispersed during partition. Now you imagine, like the Sindhis will tell you, if I go out for 2 years, when I come back, I don't bring gifts just for my 2 children. I bring gifts for my 5 brothers, 2 children also. I don't bring a gift for my wife alone. I bring a gift for all my 5 brothers' wives too. So you can imagine the kind of burden which a family has on its head when they are displaced. They have no education to fall back on, and they have very large families to support. So I don't know, many of you would have heard of an accounting system which the Sindhis had called Hathwanka. I don't think anybody would have heard. The government banned it in the 70s because that system, accounting system, was designed only to hoodwink the income tax officials. So they will have numbers, they will have letters, which they would have decided what those mean. So when the income tax authorities would come, they couldn't make head or tail of what the accounting is. Only these people will know. The best part is that sometimes even they will forget what they have written, and then there will be huge chaos because they also don't know what they accounted and whichever way they accounted. So in my book, there is one small passage of Hathwanka, which is handwritten by a city Sindhi. It took me 1 month to get those 4 lines because he was suffering from an ailment and his hands would shake. He would send the passage and the printer would say it cannot go to print. Then we had to wait. The day his hand would not shake, he would write it again. Then again it would come back. It was a long drawn process, but really, really worth it. So this gentleman, Bihari Bajaj, told me the Sindhis in their 70s, most of them will know what Hathwanka is, but they will never accept it because there is a stigma attached to it because of the, illegal aspect of Hathwanka now. Then I don't know how many of you know that many of the prominent Sindhis in the city came here on what was called Musafiris. So what was a Musafiri? These Musafiris, the Bhaibans or the Hyderabadi Sindhis used to come on Musafiris. They are the ones who used to travel to different places. Even today, they are the ones who have businesses spread over the rest of the world. By the way, there is a Sindhi in Chennai who has a business in Gibraltar, in Haiti. So, so how would Musafiri happen? Suppose a Bhaiband had 5 shops spread in different parts of the globe. He will check out the, Sindhi families he knew well who had small boys. So he will approach them and tell them, why don't you send your boys on a Musafiri with me? He will give them a token amount and make them a partner in his business. So, and you can imagine the kind of trust they had. If somebody asks them, no, where is this Musafiri to Sri Lanka? The answer will be, Ailaji Colombo Pasekha is somewhere near Colombo. They're sending their children hearing somewhere near Colombo. So from that family, 1 child has gone. From another family, 1 boy has gone, like that. So what was the purpose of the Musafiris? The boys will learn the ropes of the business. And as they grow older, they would scout around to see if there is a viable business opportunity available. They will let their parents and their grandparents and uncles know. One of them will come and set the business up for that boy. Nobody stayed, an employee of a company for long. They would bide their time, look for an opportunity and move. So Ishwar Lalchand is a very well-known figure in the city. His father came on a Musafiri with Chalarams. So did the founder of India Silk House, the Mehtanis. He also came on a Musafiri with Chalarams. They were not always well treated by their fellow Sindhis. There is a lady here called Renu Savlani. She said her father had gone on a Musafiri to Lagos. And her father's boss came into the factory. They used to make clothes. And he looked at her father and said, "Are tum abhi tak soye nahi? You did not sleep up till now? This is 3 in the morning, 3 a.m. Chalo, ab so jao, kal jaldi uthna hai. Now please go to sleep. Tomorrow you have to get up early." So they were, kind of victimized, harassed quite a bit. And as soon as they could find something suitable, they would leave. This is only applicable to the Bhaiban, the Hyderabadi community. The Shikarpuris were the quintessential money lenders. They came here for lending money way before partition. They were concentrated around Saukarpet. They used a lot of means to get their money out. Otherwise, it was not possible for them to run the business. And as you see, the successive generations found it very difficult to use those tough means. So they opted not to go in for the business, and the business has been in very solid decline. It was so profitable that one Sindhi gentleman tells me in Sindhi that if I did not lose any money in money lending, I would make walls of gold. So it was that fabulous a business for those people. Their selling skills are legendary. They're famous for their selling skills. India Silk House was very, very well known, very well appreciated for the way in which they made a sale. So this lady tells me, I went to India Silk House and I had a small baby in my arms. One salesperson came to me and said, Hare, baby ko to naye kapde chahiye. Aao, baby, chalo, hum kapde dekhte hain. He showed 1, 2, 3 different clothes. He go and he's not talking to the mother. He's not acknowledging that there is a mother. He's only talking to the baby. Hare, ye dekho karke finally he tells the baby, baby ko to ye frock pasand aa gaya, kitna acha hai. Now the lady is seeing all this. She just smiled and went and made the payment. They used to do things like that, And Dr. Arjun Das told me that he said he went to Hong Kong and he found that they don't even know how to speak in English, and they will say, what? See, buy not. Something like that they'll say. So they'll translate directly from Hindi. Ki aap dekho, kharidne ki koi zarurat nahi hai. They'll translate it to English and say, see, buy not. You don't have to buy it, just see it. They actually meant that, you see. So very, very persistent, very, very aggressive, very pleasant demeanor. So it would become very difficult to say no to them if they wanted to sell you something. They were that good at it,
Anuradha, I'm so sorry. This is a 2-minute warning, yeah?
Okay, quickly I'll tell you in one sentence about the other two communities. There are only 107 Parsis in Chennai. It's a very small community, very insular, very different from Mumbai, which is where 50,000 of them are. Here they have no boundaries, social boundaries, no hierarchical boundaries, and they live like a one large family, but they only associate amongst themselves. They have, to say quirks itself means strange and quaint. I want to emphasize it by saying they have outlandish quirks. You just have to hear them talk about them. You laugh. Like they'll say, we follow 1 month fasting before our New Year, but eggs and meat are allowed. The Bengalis are best known for their addas, their apnapan, their travel. They are capable of taking loans to travel, and they love very, very good food, you see. These are their main qualities. They are not at all business-minded. They are dreamers. If they call each other and they say, what are you doing? The person is very capable of saying, Lead khaichi, means I am doing nothing. And it's considered perfectly normal to just look at the sky and wonder why the stars did not come out when the sun is up. And you can spend an hour thinking about it. As perfectly normal. They are one of those dreamers. And all the communities are well adjusted. They enjoy Chennai, but they also strive very hard to maintain their own culture and their own, rituals which they have put into place. I think I'll take 1 or 2 questions. I don't have time to discuss anything else now. Anybody would like to ask anything?
It's fascinating. I have a question, Meera here. Very fascinating just listening to you. Was there a lot of research involved? So did you know these people or these communities? You seem to have intimate knowledge of them from the way you talk about them. So did you know them before, or was this all through your research for the book?
I interviewed 150 people for the book. I knew many of them, but if I only, write about known people, then I do not get a cross section because they are from the same kind of social, economic, all that background. What I did is deliberately, I met people from all different backgrounds so that I have a more common, and also I did not take people who were in intercaste marriages. Then you don't get a true picture of the community. That was very important for me, that they should not be in intercaste marriage.
Okay, super. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Purva, you can put the next slide on.
Yeah.
And Anuradha, just a quick Purva, next one. Okay, sorry.
You can hand over to Sureka.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, we have Sureka, and this is her book.
There's one more slide.
Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the floor is yours, Sureka.
Thank you, Purva. So, namaskar, hello to everybody. I'm really delighted to be sharing my thoughts on my book, Dharma by Design, A Universe in Harmony, with my book club family today. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. You know, to tell you frankly, I never imagined myself as writing a book in this lifetime. But sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Apparently, my birth chart says that I would write a book much later in life. Unbelievable, impossible were the thoughts that went through my head. But since then, I learned a new lesson: never say never. I mean, an education in Hindi and a struggle to master English itself, not exactly a conducive recipe for a book, is it? And that too in English, you will agree. In fact, a friend, knowing that I'm a past life regressionist, laughingly suggested that I should go through a past life regression to understand how exactly I managed to actually write this book. Seriously, at the beginning of this book, the chapter Guru Brahma, for those of you who have the book, the chapter Guru Brahma is the blessings of my Guru, who was actually responsible for my even attempting this book. I was actually persuading him to write the book. I thought he should share his phenomenal knowledge with the world, but he is one of those sadhus who just does not care for any publicity, but brings in a captive audience of thousands when he speaks from a public platform. So he turned around and he said to me, "You know enough now, so you write the book. And if there are questions, you ask me." So as destiny willed, the lockdown came into 2020, and it gave me the perfect opportunity to go within and attempt writing this book. And that's how it happened that I put pen to paper, rather fingers to the keyboard. I call this book my fourth child because it took me 9 months to write and publish it, the entire process. I know now what it means to live within a certain space for months. I still don't know where the words came from, any time of the day and night. It is a blur today, as if someone up there was suggesting what to write and also writing through me. And this is really no exaggeration. I don't know how else I can describe this. Anyway, so the whole book revolves around what we have lost as societies and as people. It is about the fact that we as humans have not really lived the larger picture of why we have taken birth as a superior race. Being a follower of Vedanta, I know that we are the micro in a macro universe. The idea for any one of us was never to live for ourselves or to judge anyone. And virtue and morality were coined because everything is connected in creation. We are all in the same cosmic space. And so we do need to respect each other's energy and space. We are mostly unable to perceive this, but actually it is a spiritual fact that if one starts falling, ultimately everything connected will crash. And this is happening today. We are seeing this with our own eyes. The conflict, the terror, the fear, the isolation, the weakening of the human spirit, the massive egos, and a complete misinterpretation of religion, and much more. Anyways, Dharma by Design, a universal harmony, is basically my personal protest against the present condition of the human mind, which has led to a regrettable loss of humaneness in humans. It is a protest against the powers that be, which have been responsible for misleading societies and depriving them of the spiritual knowledge that was the central focus of the Indian way of life. It is mind-boggling that today there are more followers than thinkers in this world. We allow religion to divide us. We don't trust each other in the wake of insecurities, competition, and comparison. We get stuck within rigidities and don't know how to flow with life. We work from fear and hate rather than love and light. Dharma, I feel very strongly, is the way back into elevating human consciousness and saving further degeneration. Otherwise, on a lighter note, if we continue this way, we might one day become an extinct species like the dinosaurs. So the premise of my book is that Dharma is the tool for connectivity beyond religion. That religion may become divisive due to ego-driven interpretations by those in authority, but following Dharma can never go wrong. Dharma by Design is a short work, but maybe not a quick read. All spiritual concepts need a three-step approach: Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasan. So first Shravan, a study, then Manan, reflection and introspection on the study, and finally Nididhyasan, which is meditating on these phenomena to internalize and practice them. I have tried to revive the old definition of Dharma, which was actually Sanatan Dharma, literally meaning an eternal way of life and nothing at all to do with religion. Then there is a chapter on Dharma and Karma, on Dharma beyond gender, the difficulty of being dharmic. When I wrote that, I was reminded of Gurcharan Das's title, The Difficulty of Being Good. And then there are thoughts on resistance to Dharma, Dharma for posterity, insights from past lives, and finally understanding the way forward. But the four most important chapters in this book are the four pillars of Dharma: Satya, truth; Tapa, which is austerity; Shauch, cleanliness; and Daya, which is compassion. And all these, if analyzed, cannot exist in isolation without each other. They must coexist. I don't have time to go into this in detail because each chapter is a study by itself. But let it suffice to say, these four tenets were the nucleus of the Gurukul system of education and the fulcrum of the ethics and families and societies of yesteryears. So yes, the book has a touch of nostalgia about phases like Ram Rajya, very idealistic in the current scenario, but idealism of today was the realism of earlier years. I truly believe nothing is impossible if we live by the laws of the universe. Our problem is we constantly live in a world of mindsets, prejudices, and belief systems with no authentication. If only we can wake up to an awareness of who we are, that would be a trigger for change within ourselves. And if each one of us changes, the macro is bound to change. So my motto is, change is the essence of life, but there always should be a blend of a righteous way of living and personal achievements in any day and age, because life is a continuum. So no slogans like out with the old, in with the new for me. The pillars of Dharma can be perfected better by living within people and as a householder, more than by isolating ourselves from human civilization. In a small way, my book has been validated by Literary Titans, which has awarded this book with a silver award. I just wanted to share it with you. If Purva could please show the slide. Thank you. One minute. Just give me a second. I seem to have lost my 1 minute. Yeah. So I see this is a book for everyone, but definitely it is a book for people who are in pain regarding the plight of this world today. It is for spiritual scientists who can actually understand and initiate the balance between science and spirituality. It is for academicians who need to introduce ethical and moral concepts in all the institutions. It is for people who can implement changes to bring up wholesome generations that can reverse the current trends, which are actually terrifying for the upcoming generation. So to sum up this, I have requested Mala to just read out a very short paragraph from my book. It is subtitled The Inclusiveness of Dharma. Mala, please.
Thank you, Surekha. The inclusiveness of Dharma. The myths around Dharma have to be broken. Our thinking is one-dimensional on this. The general misunderstanding about Dharma is that we can't do anything else in life if we follow Dharma. Actually, we can do everything only with the dharmic bent of mind and within spiritual parameters. Dharma is a magic formula. Worldly success in any form is acceptable, and successful people may be wealthy. It is how we digest wealth, power, and success, and what means we use to get there that defines Dharma. It has to be woven into the fabric of our lives to become a part of us with all its aspects, to become our identity. To endorse the words of Warren Buffett, the best investment you can make is in yourself.
Thank you, Mala. So I end with a quote by Frederick Lenz. He says, Dharma is another name for existence. It is existence in its pure form. So thank you all for listening so patiently, and I'm open to whatever you have to say now.
Well, I'm not asking a question. I'm just like to make a comment, Surekha. I read the, I read the book, and I think I agree with almost everything you've had to say in it. So it was great for me to go through the whole book slowly, but I did it.
Thank you so much. See, it's good to know that.
I have read the book, found it so difficult that I wanted to read it again, and I did it. And still, I think I've understood only 25%. I'm going to keep bugging you.
You will get there, don't worry, it's not that tough.
How did you latch on to this subject in the first place? What was your interest? Were you always inclined to follow spirituality or something?
Yes, right from childhood, we had a guru who used to come and stay with us in the family. So as children, my mom would wake up at 5, do his seva, and then go to school. So we have pretty much grown up with spirituality in the family. We had a lot of oratory coming our way when we were very young. So you know how it is, you tend to imbibe what we hear as when we are impressionable children. And for us, it was spirituality and Ramayana and Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad and all that all the way. And what really was most interesting for me was the moral science that we used to learn in school. So everything, and belonging to a Christian school really had that. We had this subject called moral science, which taught us how to be good human beings. And I think later from my guru, whatever I learned, I just went on in Vedanta. I just started studying very, very passionately. And I think this is who I am, Suresh.
I still remember the moral science classes in my school days.
Exactly.
Most of other boys took it rather easy, but I used to find it quite interesting.
Yes.
Something totally outside the curriculum, outside what we are expected to know and read for exams and all that. But at the same time, they were talking about other things which were not covered by any of the so-called classes. So it was
Yes.
quite interesting.
Yes.
Is there
I
anything
agree.
like that in today's education?
Today's education, no. In fact, when I've tried talking to schools where my children used to study, they called me outdated and obsolete. So I just left it at that because they're not really. I don't see value education doing the rounds in any school that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong.
Today it seems to be more done by other NGOs who are involving students, who are involving
Yes,
like
there
the
has to
Karuna
be.
Club, for example, which is
Yes.
there in about 2,000 schools and colleges in India.
I need to differ there. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I see my grandchildren do have their value education. It is not a separate moral science class, but they log in, they're all on their online mode, and they log in at 8:15 before classes commence at 8:30. And there is some value education imparted every day, not necessarily a separate moral science period, but a 15-minute value education imparted every day on any subject. And sometimes the students themselves take assembly. And this could be the assembly is taken by third graders themselves. My granddaughter is in third grade, third graders themselves, each going section by section. All of that happens. And so there is a value system coming into play, but not in that structured way that we did it in our days where we had a scripture and moral class, but definitely on a daily basis.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But which school would that be, if I may ask?
National Public School.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Well, that's wonderful. I think that there are a lot of special attempts being made to teach children in various ways. Like my daughter is involved with the Kindness Foundation. Now we were brought up with kindness as a part of our entire daily activity. It was nothing else was tolerated, but today it's coming back in different ways. So I guess you're right. I mean, it has to come back because people are missing all the values now.
Sureka, I apologize. Oh no, actually no. Just a 5-minute warning. Yeah. So if anyone's got questions,
Sure, I'm here. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody else has questions, now would be the time to speak up because, yeah, like I said, 5-minute warning, and then we move on to Prema.
Can you hear me?
Alu, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Alu, you're on mute. Let's see if I can fix that.
Now can I hear?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
You know, especially at a time like this, as you see in the Kali Yugam, and we were just reading the meaning of the Kali Yugam and the avatar, the Kalki avatar, and we see it is the decline of Dharma. So everything that has been written in about the Kali Yugam, you can see it actually happening in your life today. Step by step, there are 20 points, and step by step, you can see it's happening. When an agriculturist forgets about agriculture, goes to mechanics and the IT world, the value system dropping, everything is explained. So probably, and Sureka has tried to explain Dharma in a less difficult way to understand. So I think this type of a book should be very valuable to society in today's world. Now, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Aligu.
Yeah.
I just had a comment to make also that I can relate to people of our age group actually growing up in households where there was a lot of discussion with elders and value systems from the elders, being almost all of us being almost sponges because it was there in the environment, like you said, Sureka. And so there was something about the joint family structure that was absolutely conducive to imbibing a lot of these teachings and learnings, because somebody would be studying the Ramayana, somebody would be reciting something else. And there was always these learned people traipsing through the hallways, and things like music, which is so much part of the spiritual life. All of that was always there. I sometimes feel sad that youngsters of today, like my sister's children, for example, they're all abroad living or trying to survive in alien circumstances, and they don't have the benefit of this kind of a nurturing environment to grow up in. So I think that I'm happy to hear that Lulu saying that it's there in her children's or grandchildren's educational system. I'm really truly happy and hope it comes back a full circle, because I think a lot of our difficulties were sustained because of what we went through as kids. I could skate through and say, yep, this too shall pass. It's just a myth, it's Maya, that kind of stuff. So very well written book, Sureka. It, like Suresh said, it is not an easy read. Each sentence requires some thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mala. Thanks a lot. And yes, I know that we don't have exposure in today's generation, but you know, Mala, ironically, we have a lot on YouTube. Every lecture you have, from Swami Sarvatyananji to Sadhguru to V.K. Shivani, you have everything. The problem is, what you hit the nail on the head was with environment. If the environment is not given, you're not going to look for those videos and listen to them. So I suppose it's something that we have to self-educate, where in our childhood, we were just brought up with it.
Yeah.
I think, Purva, you can carry on with the next Prima.
Yeah, let me just pull up the author card. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and the floor is yours, Prema.
Well, hello, friends. I think it is really with much hesitation and no little trepidation that I've agreed to join Meet the Author today, because I am no author. That's a simple fact. I do not have any original book or a creative one or anything profound to my credit. I am a mere translator and a co-translator in that, because most of my books have been, in fact, all my books have been done in collaboration with my close friend, Uma Narayanan. Moreover, the main body of our work, which consisted of actually 5 books coming one after another, 2 of them were translated from French to English and 3 from Tamil to English. And they all came out almost, I think, 2 decades ago. It was pretty long. But after this long hiatus, what happened was that in 1991, this year in March, our latest book, you see the picture which is there, Lamps in a Whirlpool, did come out. So which is why I'm feeling at least emboldened to talk today as an author, which is comparatively recent and not, you know, a has-been many, many years ago. Anyway, now what I just wanted to say was that in India, we have always been living with translations. You know, translations is a subject very dear to me. I'm very passionate about it. We've always lived with translations. Think Ramayana. Can you tell me one Indian language or any kind of a dialect where it doesn't exist, either in translation or adaptation or whatever? You think of us. We grew up reading Panchatantra stories or perhaps Grimm's fairy tales. Then later on, we moved on to Madame Bovary, Karenina, and now it's 100 Years of Solitude. And all these were translations. But while we read them, were we ever conscious of the fact that we were reading a translation? Did we ever spend any time thinking about the translator and what a difficult task it is for him? You know, a translator has to get into the skin of the writer. He has to know every comma, every para, every word, everything in the book. And then he also has to express every single idea, every idiom of the writer, and in elegant prose at that, and correctly too. and at the same time retain the flavor and the fragrance, the savor and the spice of the original. It is not an easy task. In fact, as I'll just have to look at this because I don't remember it. This is what Gabriel Garcia Marquez said. He said that my best translators rely on intuitiveness rather than mere intellectualism. So you can see what a big, mighty task is there before the translator. And I think everybody should think about it at some point or the other. Now, my journey into translation happened purely by chance, happenstance, you can call it. I was visiting a friend who lived in Chennai, and I did not live, or Madras at that time, and I did not live here then. And I found that she had embarked on something very new for us, translation of a book. So I was absolutely curious, excited. Somehow I started off by being her amanuensis, and I ended up by being her co-translator. Now, this is a book I'd like to say a little bit about because it's very important to us, not because it's the first book, but because it sort of touches us, particularly in Chennai in some way or the other. Now, this book was written in French. We brought it out as Empire of Dust in English. It was written by one Rose Vincent, who's a well-known novelist in France, and she was the wife of an earlier French ambassador to India. And while she was exploring Pondicherry, she came across a few mentions of this extraordinary woman whose name was Jeanne. And why it should interest us is that Jeanne's grandmother was Tamil. Not many people know that it happened. And then her grandfather was a Portuguese soldier. Her father was a French doctor. And at the age of 37, widowed with 11 children, she became the political advisor and the wife of Francois Joseph Duplex, whom I think you've all heard of as the Governor General of the French territories in India. Now, naturally, Rose was very excited by this character and wanted to write a full biography. But unfortunately, so little is known about her that it wouldn't make a book. So she decided to write it as a kind of a fictional biography with a lot of fiction thrown in, some real facts. And all this was against a real dramatic backdrop, which was the Anglo-French conflict, which was going on in India over a large number of years, which you've all read about in history. And this is important because, see, there were on one hand intrigues of the French, the machinations of the British, and there was, of course, the big Anglo-French wars, which decided so many things. Now, this book, however, when it was published, what happened was it became very strangely very successful in Chennai. And I think all the people who read books in English, all of them, their fancy was captured by this book. In fact, Landmark had this list of most sold books or something like that, and it was there week after week. And it got some very, very luminous reviews in all the daily newspapers like Hindu, etc., by well-known people. And to us, what was the icing on the cake was that it won the, what shall I say, total approval of the late Mr. Muttaya, who used to call himself a chronicler of Madras. And he thought that it brought out that period of history remarkably well. And he never lost an opportunity of talking about it whenever he spoke about the Anglo-French conflict in India. So that is why this book, I feel, leaves us with some important questions. You see, the French could have well won all these wars due to some reasons, which I will not go into now. It was the British who were the victors and not the French. But if the French had been the victors, we would be, or rather we would have been till 1954, a French colony under the French as colonial masters. So I think we should think, what would have been the fate of India as a nation if we had been under the French? Would it have been different? And the corollary to this question is, again, deals with people like us. We would have had a French education. And in what way would it have impacted or influenced our ways of thinking? our what shall I say, our mores, our sensibilities? So that is again a very important question, and I think we can sort of ponder over it. So now, you see, since I brought out 5 books, I can't talk about each one of them. That will be too boring. And so I've just decided to go on just briefly through the others. And this led to other things happening. And there were 2 people who actually approached us to translate the books. And one was Liane Guillaume, who was also French. And she chose again to do a historical biography of Jahanara, the daughter of Shah Jahan. And this is what I find amazing, that people who are French have wanted to write about these little known women, deserve to be known about, because they have some extraordinary qualities. Anyway, so this was, these were the 2. And the second book was by a well-known Tamil author called Rajam Krishnan, who very humbly asked us to translate the book that was nearest to her heart. That is the book she wrote, which was nearest to heart. And this was about the Badagat tribes in the Nilgiris, and it was called Kurinji Thain, which we translated. Then this was followed by 2 books by Ambai. And this was a real stroke of luck for us, because I would say that Ambai today is really one of the best short story writers in any language in the world. I would say it unhesitatingly. Now, we were very fortunate at this point of time, because it was an invaluable learning experience working with these people. And they were all well versed in English. So they could, you know, smoothen the rough edges of our work, fine-tune it as it were, so we could bring out some good things. And the other thing is that it was indeed a privilege for us to interact with women of such substance and stature, 4 women writers. We were lucky, they were there, they were alive, and they were willing to spend time with us. So this was really a stroke of fortune. And then after many years, in 2020, as it were, this Tamil Nadu Textbook Committee, it was called, it decided to bring out 6 books at a time, translations from Tamil of French literary novels, and distribute it among the universities and schools, I think hoping to kindle the interest of those who did not read Tamil, whom they thought would read it in English. Anyway, as it happened, one of the books that was chosen was called Churalil Midukam Divangal, which translates as Lamps in a Whirlpool. And this was again by Rajam Krishnan, who is no more here today. And I think it was chosen because it was the first feminist novel in Tamil. And we were selected to translate it, my friend and I, because we were the only ones who had translated Rajam Krishnan at all from Tamil into English. Now, this was a book which, according to Rajam Krishnan, who had spoken to us earlier, this was a book that was written in anger and written overnight. See, Rajam Krishnan was spending the evening with her family in Delhi, where she saw the daughter-in-law of the house, a very highly intelligent woman who had held a fantastic job, now reduced to a mere household drudge, totally ruled over by this dictatorial and domineering mother-in-law, who was in turn ruled by very orthodox practices and kind of rituals which are totally meaningless and out of date. And she bore with it all meekly and submissively. Now, Rajam Krishnan said, dearly like to intervene and say something. But naturally, she couldn't. So she did what came to her naturally. She went and closed the door of her bedroom, whipped out a notebook, and started writing a book. So this was the story she started writing about. But somewhere along the line, it took a different course. The trajectory of the protagonist became different. Instead of being constantly meek and submissive, she discovered her own identity, her own self-worth. Then she decided to break free of these shackles, chart her own course. Of course, this came with a great cost to her family life, but she did it. So that was what this book was all about. And I have to say that Radha Krishnan finished it overnight. And in the morning, she caught the Tamil Nadu Express back to Chennai after having written the whole book. And she told us that she went straight from the central station in an auto rickshaw to the house of a publisher, gave it to him and said, you can correct any things that need to be corrected. But I've just finished the book. All my feelings are there in it. So when you read it, you can feel, the kind of immediacy, the kind of anger she feels about helpless women, which happens even today in the most educated households. They're confined to their house, their talents are not recognized. This is happening still today, every day. And this is what she wrote about. So that was another very interesting book that we did. And I would say that these books had a kind of a happy ending because 6 books came out at that time. And our president, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, visited Chennai, I think sometime in 2021. And our chief minister, Thiru Stalin, presented him with all the 6 books. So they went to him, whether he read them or not, I wouldn't know. And what was nice and which would gladden the heart of us SansSerifians is what Stalin said. He said, in future, I have decided that instead of giving ponnadais and shawls to all visiting dignitaries, I will give them books instead. So on that happy note, I end.
Thank you so much, Prema. I did find lamps in the whirlpool available. I will leave it to Mr. Suresh to find out if it's possible to get it via Odyssey, but it is available via Amazon. But are any of your other books still available? Because the stories of the woman in Pondicherry and Shah Jahan's daughter sound fascinating.
Yes, they are. And actually, they are not in print now. But Sharan from somewhere unearthed a few copies of Jahanara. I think she had a friend who had a copy.
No, we all got Jahanara.
Sorry?
Yeah, we printed it. Yeah, and I took one.
Yeah,
yes,
we all have a copy.
It's a fascinating story.
Yeah, so
okay.
Jahanara has been brought out by, Charan made copies, I think Xerox copies. And she took a list of all of us, whoever wanted a copy to read, which they did. And what is remarkable is that these women were foreigners. It was Indian women to be heroines. There was so little to write about them, but they did enormous research, unearthed whatever they could,
But it was
and made a plausible
written
novel
very
out of it.
well, and you translated that very well.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that almost all our books, we got excellent reviews. Those days, I think reviews were easier to come by because particularly the first one, it hit the roof almost. I never expected it. But even the others, we all got excellent reviews for every one of the books that we have written, up to Ambais. And this book, which I'm talking about, Lamps in the World, probably, I'm sure, is there somewhere in Amazon. Couldn't be just distributed to universities. I don't know anything about it. We were just selected to do it. We were not consulted about the book cover or the font or anything. They just took over from us and we just nodded our heads. That's all happened.
ಲೇಟಾಗಿ ಬರ್ತಾರಂತೆ ಅದೇ ನೋಡ್ತೀನಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ.
Well, if there's got 2 minutes, I just would like to say it was a bit different job translating from French and from Tamil. Because the Tamil culture is so different from the English culture that it's very difficult to find the proper equivalence into it. French is not so bad, I think.
Yeah, I did want to ask you about that, Prema, because I translate as well. I apologize. Somebody has okay. One second. I'm just going to
just mute Mallika.
Okay.
Mute Mallika.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did want to ask about that. If there was much of a difference between translating from the Tamil and translating from the French, because like you said, massively different cultures, and also I imagine that how much did you think of your audience when you translate? Because especially I've read books translated from Indian languages to English that go a little too far with explaining things. Calling a sindoor a marriage mark, for instance.
Yes.
So I wondered how you navigated that.
You see, the thing is, I don't know whether we were really thinking a lot about our audience. So to speak. I remember the very first book we did from Tamil. Yes, we went a bit overboard because there were footnotes explaining every little thing, saying dosa is a flat pancake and things like that. And now we've decided that people will just take it as it comes. After all, we read Russian books where they spoke about samovars. We didn't know what a samovar was. It didn't matter. So we write it very much with the Tamil ethos in place. And well, that's it. But there are two things. One is fidelity, one is fidelity. It has to be fidelity to the original text. That's a big thing they insist on. But it should be readable by people of other languages, certainly, at least the language into which you are translating. And we hope that people in different countries can also make some sense of it. It shouldn't be too Tamil without any explanation at all, that they don't know what we're talking about. So it's a kind of a balance that you have to do. And for that, I think you need a very good editor, which we were lucky enough to have. And she would just circle some sentence in red and say, that doesn't sound quite English. Can you redo it, please, very gently, and then we will go on.
Prima, I want to ask you something, Prima, if I may.
Yes.
In translating, and I initially, before I went into writing or whatever, I translated a book called Sahaj Sadhana from Hindi to English. And I called it Easy Meditation because Sahaj Sadhana translates into Easy Meditation. Yeah. But I always wondered when it was more difficult than I had anticipated, and I said that Hindi to English or any two languages, if you're translating, it's very difficult to bring out the essence of certain very deep words. At least from Hindi, I found it. So did you? I mean, how much did you find that in your translation?
You see, you've chosen a very profound topic. Now, in a profound topic, it is more difficult. Because a simple word like dharma, no one understands. I come across it every day because that is an area of interest for me. Reading about our Vedantic books and things like that. People can't understand. And then that is why you find English translations of most of these books sound very weird. Strange words are used when you don't know what's happening. That's why they say learn with a guru, which makes a lot of sense because he's able to explain to you what he's saying, which is what I've done for my life. And here also we have to be very careful about that. So we have to sort of, you see, I think all of you have read Perumal Murugan. Now I'm just taking a simple idiom out of there, just out of there. And this girl says, Onna, she's talking about the Portia tree. She says it was planted the year we got married and it's so lush and full of leaves or something. Whereas not even a worm had crawled in her womb, she says. Now, I don't think it's a very felicitous expression to use when you're thinking of having a baby with it. And a few years ago in Tamil, if anyone translated, they would have said, she felt sad that there was no stirring of a new life within her. They would have put it in a different way. But now they choose to stick to the original form, using words like a worm had not crawled in her womb. And I think that's the current thing. They want the Tamil ethos to be very strong, I've noticed. And I've been reading some recent translations of Tamil, where I do find that very odd, particularly idioms and expressions.
Yeah.
Particularly expressions. Now you have in Tamil I'm talking about this onomatopoeic expressions which are there in empty if you read Tamil. So they say Kurandai, Kuru Kuru endru irundadu. That is, in English, it reads boldly, the child was plump or chubby. But this Kuru Kuru is such a beautiful expression. It goes with the word Kurandai. And it's not just fat and chubby. It means silky, smooth skin, creamy, buttery, anything. It could be anything that you can apply to a child. It just brings the child alive. And those are things, I'm sorry, we really can't do much about.
Also, can I just say, Jay here?
Yes.
Yeah, this, also as it is found that the Tamil variations from
Yes.
area to area,
Very different. That never comes out.
that the essence of it never comes, because in Coimbatore,
Never comes.
people speak a different kind of Tamil. In Madurai, they have something else. So I think probably we'll have to understand the context in which it is said, and in the area in which it is used. So probably you must have done all that kind of research before you did the translation.
Recently some book has come out about Karishal Nadu. They have their own way of talking Tamil, and using the word Tamil now. And it is very difficult. You still can't get the essence of it in English. You say, okay, it sounds a little different or whatever, but but it'll be the same if you translate in out of English, because if there's the Yorkshire dialect, it's the way the Scots speak English. They're all totally different. If you've lived in England, you'll know that they're all very different. So you go to France, again, there's the Parisian, there's the South. So you can't get that into another language.
Yeah. We could spend a whole meeting talking about translation. maybe we'll do a translated book next year. That's a thought. But for now, I think it's we've eaten into Latika's time.
Yes, no, I'm very sorry.
About that. Yeah, me. Okay, so yeah. Over to you, Latika.
Thank you. Before I start, I should say, Prema, I am the has-been. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to give you a little glimpse into what was my world and the kind of situations we dealt with through a few cases that I supervised. I was overseeing the bandobast for the chief minister in December 2006, just after Christmas, when I got a call from one of my deputy commissioners, the DC St. Thomas Mount, telling me that there had been a murder in the church up on the Mount. The killer had walked into the bookshop, asked where the padri was, and then proceeded to draw out a machete and knock the head off the bookseller there, while his assistant cowered in the room behind. He then walked out to the front of the church, and where a bus full of tourists had just arrived, he looked at the tourists, waved his bloodstained machete at them and said, "Go." And they did. They fled from the place, every one of them. They just jumped into the bus and got off the hill as fast as they could. After that, the guy strolled down the hill and disappeared. We knew that we had to detect this case and secure the killer, or else there would be a lot of panic. And already rumors had started going around that there was a lot of communal disharmony and religious disharmony about at that time. We had teams of police go around all the places in the foothills and in the neighboring areas to find out where this man would have gone, or if anybody had seen him. That night, based on the description given by that assistant who had cowered in the room behind, all the police stations in the south zone of the city were given a description of the man. A sketch was given to them. They were asked to get all their personnel out at 5 a.m. the next morning to go from street to street, house to house, telling people that if they spotted a person answering this description, please inform the police. Fortunately for us, he was spotted in Manipakkam. The patrol vehicle went over there and secured the guy. And in doing so, the panic that was setting in was dissipated. He, of course, was mentally ill and had delusions that St. Thomas Mount was his kingdom. It took a long time to disabuse him of that. However, let me go back to the beginning. Like all IPS officers, I finished my year-long training in the National Police Academy and the foundational course for all India Services officers and Central Services officers in the National Academy in Mussoorie. Did 3 months of training in the Police Training College in Chennai, or Madras as it was then went off to Trichy for my district training, for the practical training. And that's where I faced this harsh reality that while people expected you to uphold the law, etc., when it came to their own cases, they expected you to bend it to their advantage. I had a classmate living in Trichy, and there was a theft of jewelry in her house. And she was convinced that it was a teenage maid who had taken it. And she was so angry with us because we refused to and said we definitely will not give that maid a solid thrashing so that she would confess to the theft. And that told me how people view things. You know, sometimes when you want something back so much, it doesn't matter, to hell with the law. You just get it back by hitting the daylights out of the person. Now, I was posted as ASP Salem Town. That's my first posting in the police. And as part of my work, I had to go to the scenes of crime whenever a grievous or a heinous crime was rape or a heinous crime was committed. So a distraught young mother had run into Anadanapati police station in my area and seeking help and justice. What had happened was that she had stepped out of her hut to go and fetch water in the morning. And she'd asked the party who was sitting in the opposite hut to just keep an eye on her place, and also her child who was sleeping inside the house. And she went off to the tap. Luckily for her, there was nobody at the tap, so she was able to fill up her water fast and came back towards her house. As she neared the house, she heard her screams of her child. So she dropped everything and ran in there to find the party's younger son, sort of scrambling out, adjusting his clothes. People had heard the child screaming, so they came, they caught that guy despite the party protesting away. And the other women came and took care of the child and asked the mother to come and go to the police. So we went to the Hutmans, and the father had also been summoned from the fields where he was working, and he was being restrained because he wanted to really assault the guy. When we went into the hut, the sub-inspector, the inspector, and me, what we discovered was that the culprit had tried to rape a 3-month-old baby. Now, that was something that really shocked the daylights out of the three of us. Both of them may be hardened cops, but it really shocked the three of us. It's happening all the time. Fortunately, the child was not really harmed, although she had semen splattered all over her. Forensic evidence took care of the rest of the case, and we were able to charge sheet it, and also charge sheet the grandmother as accessory to the crime. Now, I worked in the crime branch CID of Tamil Nadu police for 5 years, from 1991 to 96. And there we dealt with all kinds of sensational and sensitive cases that needed sustained investigation. Here again, the pressure would come in from all sides to show detection and arrest of the concerned accused, even as the case was just being reported. The early version of the breaking news syndrome, which you see all the time on TV, made it very difficult for the police to really function. On October 10th, 1994, very early in the morning, the city of Madurai was rudely awakened to the news that the president of the Hindu Munani, Mr. Rajagopalan, had been brutally murdered by unidentified people outside his house, opposite to the south gate of the Madurai Meenakshi Amman Koil. We formed our investigation teams and took over the case that day, and I went down to Madurai to supervise proceedings. Meanwhile, the top bosses in the police headquarters and elsewhere wanted to know how many persons we had arrested or how many persons were arrested. Whereas we were confronted with the problem that nobody knew what had actually happened. I mean, nobody was telling us how these people came there, how they caught hold of Mr. Rajagopalan and killed him. So piecing together the incident really proved very, very difficult for us because our 5 main eyewitnesses were so shocked they could barely talk. The lady who had been delivering milk and the paper boy who had actually seen everything just were not in a position to say a word. The boy started speaking after 2 days. The lady never spoke even after 2 weeks. Another 3 people who were present in the vicinity insisted that they had seen nothing because all of them had ducked just when the incident took place. So after bringing them to a safe place and ensuring them that they were safe and talking to them endlessly and feeding them, we finally started piecing together what had happened. The paper boy had given Mr. Rajagopalan the newspaper and had exchanged a few words with him, then turned away to get on his cycle and go away when the 4 assailants had come. The milkwoman was pouring the milk in a vessel Mr. Rajagopalan had brought out. And when these people had come, and then she went into a state of absolute shock. You see it in all kinds of movies. You know, somebody gives a person a bonk on the head and they go dazed for the rest of the movie. That's what happened to this lady. A driver who had entered a garage just next to Mr. Rajagopalan's house pulled down the shutters and then proceeded to watch what had happened through the slits or the gaps in the shutter. And the boy in the tea shop opposite, he just ducked under the counter. There was an auto parked close by to Mr. Rajagopalan's house. There was an auto driver sleeping in it. And when he woke up with a start with the shouts that, hearing the shout, he just looked and fell onto the floorboard of his auto and decided that safety of his life was definitely more than anybody else's. Now, imagine putting together all this information just to find out what had happened. It's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle where the crucial pieces are missing. Talking to every one of them, we started literally forming a picture frame where we made each one of them act out what they saw. Just a little bit, the very little bit that they saw, each one of them started acting it out. And with the result, we were able to get a picture and we were filling in the gaps. This process took almost 10 days. And meanwhile, we would be asked by the bosses, we would be asked by the press, we would be asked by everyone, have you caught the accused? Here we were just trying to get our case together. But based on what they told us, the first clue came across. That was the dress that the people were wearing. It was the clue that took us, along with intelligence that we gathered from around, which took us to the house of the people who had harbored these 4 assailants And from then on, we could identify everyone. And at the end of 2 weeks, we were able to tell the people of Madurai and the people of Tamil Nadu that we had identified the accused. We've arrested a couple of people who had given them safe passage, etc. And it would only be a matter of time before we actually find the others. That one case, I think, did a lot of good to the CBCID and got people, random strangers would walk up to us and say, congratulations for cracking that case. Now, from 2004 onwards, the outskirts of Chennai city were subject to a series of burglaries where steel almaras would be dragged towards the windows which were barred or had grills. The almari would be opened and just cash and jewelry would be taken away. This happened all across St. Thomas Mount, Adambakam, Alandur, and you come across to Porur, Valsarvakam. All these areas had this series of thefts going on. And the police, for nearly 3 years, the police spent sleepless nights patrolling the area in search of this person who the press had christened the bureau puller. But there was no sign or sight of him anywhere. And even though the burglaries would have taken place just before the police party arrived at the scene or after they left the scene, like in true cinema style, and there would be absolutely no hint of how the guy had got there or how he'd gone off. Now, ghosts do not take jewelry and they do not take cash. So we knew it was for real. And the cops got ridiculed by everybody and the press also, saying that, what are you guys doing? The bureau puller is merrily stealing as and when he wants. Now, I had a very young and energetic deputy commissioner, and he sat in front of me with some other officers, feeling ever so morose that he had not been able to do anything. So we just started tossing ideas around. And one of them we came to was saying that, why don't you tell your people and tell the citizens' vigilance committees to look for somebody who's moving around on all fours, like a monkey does. So he did. They asked people, because that was what we thought this man would have done, moved around on all fours so that he wouldn't be visible across the compound walls. He would be below the height of the compound wall. And then he could hop over onto any place. And, just for a fraction of a minute, he had to be over the wall, but he could move off wherever he wanted without anyone seeing anything at all. Because of that, people were conscious of this. He was spotted, and within days of his being spotted, we were able to catch him. And that's when we got our shock. Mr. Nagamani was illiterate. He never watched the TV. He never listened to the radio. He just wasn't aware that he was the famous bureau puller. But fortunately for us, we'd caught him. And when he demonstrated how he committed his offense, it was even worse. He would just pick up, he would make a kind of a hook out of a metal strip, which he'd find on the road, attach it to a stick, go to a house which had an almari in it. He would hook this hook under the almari at the bottom of it, and he knew where the sweet spot was because he was able to drag it to the window silently. People were sleeping in the other rooms. Then open the thing and remove the cash and jewelry. It was a remarkable guy. He managed to commit 69 offenses and knock off about 432 sovereigns of gold jewelry. and 1,500 grams of silver. Amazing chap. I took over as DGP Tamil Nadu in January 2010. And one of the problems we faced then was intrusions into Tamil Nadu by outsiders. And these outsiders were the Maoists from neighboring states and the leftover remnants of militants from Sri Lanka. So there was a lot of, people were worried about it. They said, we're not safe in our places. And we knew we had to tackle that problem. Tamil Nadu has 436 or had 436 villages in the border areas. And we had 700 plus villages across 1,080 kilometer coastline. It's well nigh impossible to have police presence in every one of these villages so that people can stay in peace. And we knew at that stage, we need the cooperation of the villagers, because without that, we're not going to be able to do anything, which meant that community policing, which is a very important thing and has been in existence long before independence, we knew that had to be given an even greater impetus. In some of the districts, it was going on very well, but in some it wasn't. To give it the impetus, we asked the sub-inspectors and inspectors to visit every single village in their jurisdiction, do it in turn so that every village was covered almost every single week. Find out what are the problems people have, what are the things they don't have, and then try and set that right. The SPs then roped in the collectors and the other departments and attended to problems like what people had, like no electricity, no documents like pattas or pension, widow's pension or the other pension, or transportation, buses not coming to those villages, or even presence of a PHC. So the police with the revenue department and the other departments were able to solve some of these, see that some of these amenities were available to the villages. And that is the way we managed to win their trust, where they say, okay, you guys aren't that bad. And all we asked back in return was, please let us know if any stranger comes into your village. Just ring up one of the authorities. If you can't get the police, ring up the revenue authorities. It doesn't matter, but just let us know if some stranger has come. It worked. It worked beautifully, because when some militants managed to cross over to Ramnad on their fiberglass boat, some person rang up the inspector and said, there's a plastic boat over here and 4 strangers in the church. We were able to get them. The same thing happened in Vellore district when some guys tried coming down the hill. Immediately the villagers called up and the STF was able to go there and nab them. So it really comes to this point where one has to say, we police say it all the time. People perhaps don't believe us. We say that we can do our jobs, but in order to do it really well, we need to work with the people. The people we police are the people who we need their assistance in order that we do our jobs well. And I'd like to just sign off by both quoting and misquoting Kipling, saying, I've been given my charge to keep, and well have I kept the same, playing with strife for the most of my life, all within the rules of the game. Thank you. I hope I haven't overshot.
Thank you. That was super.
But you haven't, and that was lovely. Thank you so
That
much.
was very nice.
Keep hearing them.
Actually, I think I should tell you this, Latika. I was junior to you by a few years, when you got into IPS, your photographs were plastered everywhere in the newspaper. And in our college, we all wanted to be Latika at that time. So at that time, not many girls joined IPS, you know.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Yeah, it was very nice.
So that was really nice. That was because we had some experience from the side of the judiciary as to why these serious crimes where the witnesses don't come forward to own up what they saw. I think I mean, legally speaking, there is not much of witness protection system here in India as you find in other countries. The second issue is that I've been traveling widely in the United States as part of the human rights issues. We find when there is a serious crime committed there, you know very well that the district attorney, like the public prosecutor here, is immediately informed. He comes and then directs or helps the police, do the investigation as it should be done. So I was also heading the criminal bench a few times, and I found lots of either due to ignorance or otherwise, many loopholes in the investigation stage, which the judiciary ultimately cannot repair. So I'm sure maybe we don't know. I've not read your book, but probably some suggestions have been given there as to how to take it forward to make investigation more productive, more effective, and then get the conviction rate higher. So anyway, it was an illuminating experience. So your experiences you had penned down. Excellent, excellent to hear you. Thank you very much for that.
Actually, I've not written a book.
Yeah,
I don't think I will ever write a book.
What was
it's too difficult.
This was about your experience, was it?
Yeah, I was just asked to speak on my experience. I ought to mention this, that after 30 years, thanks to this movie, Jai Bhim, and the sentence and the thing mentioned there, I've had a second lease of notoriety. So that's
yeah,
I just said, Latika, never say never. So you never know. We might see a book yet from you.
Yeah, I wish it
would definitely make better reading than a lot of books I've read over the years. Absolutely.
And this is a slice of real life. It's not a book. It's not a story. It's not a
yes.
novel. It's a slice of real life in the raw.
True. And what a slice, my God.
Nothing can beat that.
True.
Thank you. It's really.
Thank you. Thank you all the speakers.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone who spoke today.
Yes. All spoke very well.
All of us are here. We should welcome our new members.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome, Jay.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the speakers. You all spoke very well, actually.
Yes.
I would love to read all the books. Let me see. Let me start maybe.
I think the good thing about SansSerif, it provides a lot of variety. Like today, you see, one is about real life. And it starts with real life, which is Anuradha, which is different, and ends with real life again. And then in between, we had Dharma, and then we had translations, which is quite a trivial topic, but whatever. It was a good variety.
That's very, very interesting. Very interesting.
If we can be given an idea of where we can get these books, which you were talking about.
We should try.
I think we'll try and.
Lucy has all of them. I've already posted the links. Also, Amazon has got all of them.
Okay.
Odyssey also supplies home delivery. And I have sent the links earlier. If you want, I'll send it again.
Okay,
that's nice.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mala.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
It was an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Anyhow,
Purva, thank you.
Thank you, Purva. Purva, thank you.
Purva. Thank you, Purva, for conducting it.
And Mala.
And Meera, please answer my question. I had written something for you on the book. On your speech,
Meera and the others who
Meera.
spoke. Yes.
the last,
Remember that.
referring to the last session, I had asked something to you. Please answer that.
I will do so. So sorry. I'm very sorry. I will do that.
Thank you so much. That was also a very interesting session. See you. Bye.
Very nice.
Yes. All right, everyone. We'll see you either in person or online in January.
whatever.
And happy
Yes,
holidays,
yes.
everyone.
Yes,
Yes.
Happy New
Merry
Year.
Christmas and
Bye
all the
bye.
best.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take
Thank
care. Bye.
Bye.